and you may have just mailed a letter across to a neighbor for a birthday. How are you involved in shipping when you're on the land?
And that's how the feds have the postal laws, and this is all admitted. That's what's incredible. When you go to court, it's all that Roman law, praying to the court in your pleadings. It's all there in front of everyone, the ancient merchant law, and any good lawyer knows this, and it's supplanting the common law.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been separated from our common law, and the only way a man can defend is through his common law. That's where he actually gets his alienable rights and everything else. But when you put out to sea, then you have all the laws, all the immunities, all the privileges come from the admiral. And that's where we are right now, and that's why we're in regulatory law. And everything is regulated. If you go through society, just count the things that you cannot do without permission. You cannot go through the intersection when it has to stop there without permission. You can't get into your car unless you have a license. You can't build a house unless you have a permit. You can't get married unless you have a license. It is unbelievable how restrained Americans are, and they think they have liberty. It's not there.
And now we're entering an intensification in this phase where they are really expanding this international private corporate jurisdiction with their admirals, Janet Napolitano, the regional governor, the 10 governors over the 10 FEMA regions, the government in the John Warner Defense Authorization Act, admitting there's a takeover. You have these cities within a city. You have London, the city of London within London, who admittedly is its own private corporate sovereign land. You have the Vatican, that's its own private corporate sovereign land, and set up the EU. You have the Washington, D.C., this command base, this district of the Admiralty. And what's incredible is you read globalist reports that are public. This is common knowledge to them, but you tell the general public this. You tell a state police officer that they're really a Admiralty agent and an enforcer of an offshore bank, they can't even understand you. But it's absolute fact.
Oh, absolutely. And, I'll give you an example. Here in the state of California, where I am, they have two codes in the government codes. One is 6850, and I'll quote it. It says, the money of accounts of this state is the dollar, the cent, and the mill. Well, they're referring back to the weight of gold or silver. That's what the money of accounts of California is. But it also says in 6852, it says all legal tender notes issued by the United States, and I emphasize issued by the United States, shall be received at par in payment for all taxes due this state or to any county or municipal corporation of this state. Now understand, it says issued by the United States. Is the Federal Reserve note issued by the United States? It's issued to the United States from the Federal Reserve. There is no law in the state of California, and I've researched them all the codes and statutes, that says they have a right to accept Federal Reserve notes or foreign product into this state. See, that's a crucial point, and that's in every state.
And that's how they expand the Commerce Clause way outside its jurisdiction, is because when your state starts accepting that private product, you, through contract, are consenting to it. Just like they say, hey, when you try to fly, we're allowed to stick our hands down your pants and radiate you because you consented.
You're absolutely on point. That's the bottom line. When you go and you're hired by an employer, you agree to accept Federal Reserve notes, $8 an hour, $10 an hour, whatever it is. You've agreed to it, but...
And they have the minimum wage law, which then allows them to control individuals contracting with each other. They're taking over every facet of society, including the family, which they admit is their main target.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And as far as do we own property, here it is right here in Senate document number 43, Senate Resolution 62, page 9, paragraph 2, April 17th, 1933, same year that we went off the gold standard. And I quote, the ultimate ownership of all property is in the state. Individual so-called ownership is only by virtue of government, example, law amounting to mere user. And use must be in accordance with the law and subordinate to the necessities of the state. Now, the state is not necessarily your state. It's the creditor is the state in this thing.
And notice when you get software, you are not the owner. You are the user. When you buy a car now, you don't buy it. They hold, as we said earlier, they hold the title. You are the user. We are literally feudal serfs and slaves All this is a 21st century version of ancient feudalism that was operated the same way in Japan, Babylon, Albion, which is England. It's the same system.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the bottom line. And this is what you tax on, using the product. Not on the product itself, but the use of the product. And the bottom line to all this is an unconscionable contract, because ask any American, and they honestly believe that that is real money of the United States. They have no clue it is not their money.
And a contract executed in fraud by either party is null and void under every common law system globally.
Again, absolutely. And at the bottom line of the contract, when someone deals to you a worthless instrument for your actual labor, that is criminal conversion, isn't it?
And that's what happened in 1913. They got the Federal Reserve. They got rid of our senators being state-controlled. They brought in the income tax. That was the true coup d'etat, the beachhead. 33, total receivership. Since then, we are under total foreign banking cartel. And from your research, Rothschild, Rockefeller, Dutch royalty, Queen of England ownership, and they're eugenicists, and now they just want us off their land. They see us as rats that are overbreeding, and so they're now poisoning our water supply and food, gauging, if we'll notice, as, you know, half the people on your block get diabetes or die of cancer.
Yes, absolutely. You know, the difference between a Federal Reserve note and a gold coin, if you put a lawful gold coin in a mason jar and held it for 20 years, it would still be the same amount. It would not duplicate itself, it would not increase. But take that Federal Reserve note that draws interest every second of every day, put it in a mason jar. If it's $20 Federal Reserve note, in 10 years it will have doubled, tripled, or whatever, because it has a rising debt to it.
Yeah, to explain that, 5,000 years ago, a man could buy the finest, suit of clothes for 1 gold ounce coin. You can still buy, a very nice suit and clothes for that 1 gold coin. And again, people get confused. They go, well, why do I buy gold? Okay, it was $300 8 years ago. Now it's 14 plus 100. But how do I buy things with it? At the point you unfreeze the gold, cash it in for the fiat, and now you've stopped the bankers from cheating you out of your savings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't continue without saying how they defined the income tax on the first case, and what's called Bruce Shaver versus Union Pacific Railroad, 240 U.S. 1 at a 1916 case. And the constitutionality of the income tax was pursued, and it is this case, and the government of the United States cites as to the constitutionality of the income tax. I'm going to quote what Chief Justice White said, and I quote, "The appellate filed his bill to enjoin or command the corporation from complying with income tax provision of the Tariff Act of October 3rd, 1913. Most people reading that wouldn't understand what was just said there. But he identified the tax as a tariff. You know what a tariff is?
Yeah, it's a foreign corporate government putting a tariff on us. I mean, this is total economic domination. I'm going to have you back up for a full hour to take calls in the near future. The book is They Own It All, Including You, by Means of Toxic Currency, Ron MacDonald and Robert Rowan, MD. It's a thick book, but an easy read. It's about 220 pages long. It's very well documented. Everybody needs this. You think you know it all about the Federal Reserve System, folks? I learned a lot from this book, and I hope you'll go to Infowars.com and get it, or simply call 888-253-3139. Buy one for yourself. Give one as a gift. Give it to local bankers you know. Most of them don't know, because they are now using this to remove the actual resources from us. This is very predatory. These people are extremely dangerous. As you're now seeing, we're coming to the end of this phase. It's only going to get crazier from here. Knowledge is power. The people perish for lack of knowledge, as Jesus Christ said. This book, They Own It All, Including You, available at Infowars.com. We've got about a minute left, Ron. In closing, how do we get out of this? How do we extricate ourselves?
Well, the first thing the people have to do is look at their states as their own home. This is your house. Clean it up. If all 50 states were to start tackling their own states and not worry about the other states, we would take back this country within a month. There's no doubt in my mind. We have to change the nature of currency to an honest money system, and we can do that.
Well, if you look at the Homeland Security grid, the John Ward Defense Authorization Act, and all the rest of it, it's all designed and stated to suppress the states, to remove governors. I mean, because they know our legitimate redress is to take the states back and then take the central government back. Yes.
Well, there are a lot of remedies to this, including how to get your state to act. And that would have to be for another show.
Yeah, I'm going to have you back on because I know you've got a really good idea that you've been promoting. And we'll get you back either the first of the year or even in the next few weeks. Ron MacDonald, thank you so much. And, of course, Robert Rowan, also, MD, you're a co-author. Great job. They own it all, including you. Hope you get it, folks. Infowars.com or 888-253-3139. Ron, we'll talk to you again soon. Great job. And let me say bye to you during the break. All right, folks, we're going to come back and get into the globalists. Don't want us talking about this, so they're getting ready to try to shut down the media. Max Keiser and Wayne Madsen popping in the next hour. Got some other really informative guests coming up in the next few days, including Lord Monkton and others. FCC push to regulate news draws fire, the Hill newspaper. And they've got all these different FCC board members going on international television, national television, and pitching it of, we think there needs to be quality of news. That's what Jay Rockefeller said a few weeks ago, and that's why we want to shut down Fox and MSNBC. They're partisan. You know, they're getting people arguing politically. We can't have that, and you've got to prove you're serving your community. And then now the FCC announced this week that they will regulate the Internet, even Internet talk radio. You've got to get a license. The government's going to set up community boards that decide if you get to have a show. They're panicked. They're scared. They know that people are becoming wise to them. They know that people are waking up to them. There's a new Drudge report out here. Sources, editors of Time magazine will name Wikileaks founder Person of the Year developing. We're going to get into Wikileaks coming up in about 10 minutes with Wayne Madsen. But getting back into this FCC situation, here's the Hill. Maybe you'll listen to them when they tell you, some of you out there that are in denial. Republican Joe Barton pushed back on Monday against a contention by Democratic FCC commissioner that the government should create new regulations to promote diversity in news programming. Barton was reacting to a proposal made last week by FCC Commissioner Michael Copps, who is in a speech suggesting that broadcasters be subject to new public values test every 4 years. So you have to have a license from the government to be able to have a website, news blog, you name it. Let's go ahead and play the FCC head on BBC. And even the BBC, that's state-run propaganda, was shocked by what he said. Here it is.
In what you call its hour of grave peril. That's a pretty serious condemnation.
It's a pretty serious situation that we're in. I think American media has a bad case of substance abuse right now. We are not producing the body of news and information that democracy needs to conduct its civic dialogue.
Hit pause.
We're not producing as much news as we...
I mean, listen to the FCC member. FCC commissariat, like in East Germany or Russia, where there was a government board that decided if your play could get made or you could get on television, and they got all the women and power out of it. It's pure top-down tyranny. You mean the New York Times? You mean Fox and CNN that promoted the government's lies about WMDs? You mean the mainstream media that tells us fluoride is good? This is meant to shut down any political debate or discussion that isn't establishment government written. The government has been paying billions of dollars a year into corporate media to prop it up, to put out propaganda. Now the alternative media has overthrown them, and they realize that, so they're rushing in to shut us down. Let's continue with this slime bag on American.
5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, and we have to reverse that trend, or I think we are going to be pretty close to denying our citizens the essential news and information that they need to have in order to make intelligent decisions about the future direction of their country.
See, we need government programming of TV and radio and print to make intelligent decisions. Oh, yes, yes. I mean, we need telescreens in the shopping malls. We need checkpoints. We need open borders. We need fluoride in our water. We need lithium. That's the FCC Commissioner Michael Copps trying to police free speech. Let's go back to this commissar. Here he is.
What you've called for to redress this situation is what you're calling a public value test. Doesn't that raise the spectre of overt government control?